गिरिवरधारी Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Bharat Hare Jaya Giri Bharat Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Bonachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Tira Bonachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tira Bonachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tira Bonachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Sri Guru Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Oh. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Go to Premanandi. Which sloka is it? Chalis? 24. 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayo Mudiraet Nashta Prayesvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's okay. Very brief.
Hare Krishna. It's our extremely great fortune to have His great Vaiyasaki Prabhu with us. And Prabhuji has ordered me to briefly introduce, not too long. Actually, we know him by his wonderful kirtans and bhajans. And these CDs are very, very popular. Even those days, when I was in my college in 2001, 2002, I used to hear to those CDs and was relishing those kirtans. So, Prabhuji is a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And although he born in London, but he was grown up in Canada. And there in US, he got introduced to Krishna consciousness. He gave a whole class to all of us, how he came to Krishna consciousness and his interactions with Srila Prabhupada. Many memories, many interactions are there with Srila Prabhupada. And then 73, he came back to London. And there, he met Srila Prabhupada for the first time. And then he went back in the same year to San Francisco. There he got initiated in 1973. And later in 1975, he came to India on the order of Srila Prabhupada to help in the Indian Yatra, because in India there were very less devotees at that time. And in 1978, while traveling to Bangladesh, he came upon this unique style of kirtan, which you can see it's so divine and so heart-touching. So he learned it and he developed it, and he blended the traditional Bengali music along with the modern music. So it becomes a very unique style, and that's why kirtans are very popular, very well known. We all have heard is Narsimharthi, that high-pitched Narsimharthi, which just thrills everyone. So, on order of Srila Prabhupada, he travels and preaches. From 1975 onward, he's into the Sankirtan, World Sankirtan team, and he's traveled to different parts of India and the world, distributing an nectar of the holy name, addressing the devotees, answering their questions, and inspiring them in Krishna consciousness. So, we have been very fortunate. This is the second time in this year we are having his wonderful association, and his classes are so deep and so deeply inspiring, and kirtans are so enchanting and uplifting. So in spite of his growing age, which is 80 years old now, but his enthusiasm is growing more faster than his bodily age. So it's other issues he travels, because Prabhupada ordered him, wherever you go, whomsoever you meet, you share this message of Krishna consciousness. So he has taken that message to his heart, and he is in this age also traveling, not only in India, he went to European tour some days back, traveling and preaching. And then he returned to India, and he has come to Mumbai and then to Pune. Now today he's traveling back to Mumbai, then to Vrindavan. So we're very fortunate because, having somebody who has seen, interacted, and has taken Prabhupada's instruction to his heart and soul is a very rare occasion. And we have such soul amongst us. So let us welcome him at Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Mandir by very loudly chanting once the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Apart from all this, there is another monumental work which he has done in the form of Radha Damodar Vilas. So I don't know how many of you read, but it is a extraordinary compilation of those times when His Holiness Vishnujan Swami Maharaj and His Grace Jayanand Prabhu were, there on this planet, and they were inspiring devotees. So it's a very live account, and he worked extremely hard for that. A single man, just taking interviews for around 500 devotees and transcribing them, compiling them, then making them in the form of book. And it's just a masterpiece actually. That has been one of the milestones of the books also. It's so wonderful. You feel like you got transported in that era, and you come to know so many details of how these great souls actually lived and preached Srila Prabhupada's message. So please refer to them. They are in folio also. We have level for sale also. They are very, very inspiring, wonderful books. Thank you very much. Hare.
Thank you very much. So we're continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 11. And today is shloka 24. And this chapter is called The Transcendental Qualities of Vritrasura. Vritrasura, he ended up as an asura, but he understood the goal of life. And so even though he was in the body of an asura, he had the qualities of a devotee, as we shall see in this shloka. Aham Hare Tava Padaikamula Dasanudaso Bhavitasmi Bhuya Manasmareta Shupater Gunamste Grinita Vakarma Karotu Kaya Aham Hare Tava Padaikanula Dasanudaso Bhavutam Sibhuya Manasmareta Supater Gunamste Grinita Vakarma Karotu Kaya Aham Hare Tava Padaikamula Das Anudaso Bhavitam Nibhuya Manasmarata Supater Gunamste Grinitava karma karotu kaya. Vaishnavis, Aham, I, Hare, O my Lord, Tava, of your Lordship, Pada Ekamula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet. Dasa Anudasa, the servant of your servant. Bhavitasmi, shall I become? Bhuya, again. Mana, my mind. Smareta, may remember. Ashupate, of the Lord of my life. Gunan, the attributes. Te, of your Lordship. Grinita, may chant. Vak, my words. Karma, activities of service to you. Karotu, may perform. Kaya, my body. Translate Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, that my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. Responsively, please. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet. O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. My words always glorify those attributes, and my body also always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. Srila Prabhupada's purport. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Das, 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 under das. Why is that? This is the first and foremost thing. If you don't do that, you will never get Krishna Bhakti. So why is this the most important thing, becoming the servant of the servant of the servant of everyone else? And the answer is simple. Because in the spiritual world, that's your natural constitutional position. You're the servant of the servant of the servant of everybody else. So in other words, if you want to return back to the spiritual world, we have to develop that mentality, that mood, so that we can go there. Because if we don't have that mood, we will not be able to fit in. Just like a fish cannot fit into our life out of the water. So we won't be able to fit into the spiritual world unless and until we become the servant of the servant of the servant. So even Srila Prabhupada, who is the Shaktivesh avatar, he exhibited this quality so many times. He was the servant of the devotees. In the very beginning, when we only had one temple, 26 2nd Avenue, and one bathroom, in the morning, before the morning program, devotees would line up to go into the bathroom, and Prabhupada also would stand in line. So humble. They said, no, you go first. But he was ready to just stand in line and let others go first. So Prabhupada was like that. In another occasion, in Los Angeles in 1975, he said, I am an old man. What can an old man do? But my Guru Maharaj was so kind upon me that he sent all of you American boys and girls to help me. And now, I'm very happy to say that Lord Chaitanya's movement is in the right hands. And he went like this, the right hands. He gave all the credit to his disciples. He said, I'm an old man. What can an old man do? But my Guru Maharaj sent all of you young boys and girls to help me because you have the energy, you have the Shakti. So even though Srila Prabhupada was a Shaktivesh avatar and he did amazing things, in practice, he was always das, 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 under das. So here, Vritrasura is also begging to again become das, 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 under das. He had gone off the track where he was not das, 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 under das. He experienced what it was like to be a devotee, and he experienced what it was like to be a demon. So he had a good comparison. He knew what was the difference between the two. And he realized, I just want to be the servant of the Lord. Oh, my dear Lord, when will I find shelter at your lotus feet? He's begging, when will I find shelter at your lotus feet? That's all I want, is shelter at your lotus feet. So in this shloka, he's asking questions. Not only that, but when will I again become the servant so that my mind always thinks of your transcendental attributes? When will my words always glorify you? And when will my body engage in your loving service? This is what he's thinking. This is what he desires. We can compare the desires of Vritrasura to our own desires. What are we thinking of? What are we desiring? We can compare. And we have the same mood as Vritrasura or not. So Prabhupada says, one must become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Das, 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 and das. Because this is the sum and substance of devotional life. This is the first and foremost important thing. which is a change in our mentality, our internal mood. You may do so many things externally, but what is my internal mood? What am I thinking of internally? That's the important thing. Why? Because we're not the body. The body may go out and distribute so many books, but Krishna is only seeing what is your internal mood. What is the mood of the Atma? He doesn't care about your body. He only cares what is your mood, the Atma Tattva. What is the truth of your internal mood? This is what Krishna is interested in. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he always showed by his own example, that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, who is the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Anudasa. So, this was Lord Chaitanya's mood also. He just wanted to become a servant of the servant of the servant. So we see that the greatest personalities that ever came to this earthly realm, to this material realm, they just showed the greatest humility. They just wanted to serve everybody. Because that was their bhava. That was their anand. They got so much happiness serving someone and seeing that person benefit from their service. We give service as a benefit to someone else. We want to give a benefit to other people. That's what we want to do. And that's why we become servants. We give service to others. We give a benefit to others. And when we see that person benefiting, then internally we're very pleased. We're very happy. So this is the mood that Lord Chaitanya exhibited, that Prabhupada exhibited, that all the acharyas exhibited, and this should become our main focus. This means, Prabhupada continues, that one must accept the spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. So our guru is a servant of the servant of the servant, and we must also become a servant of the servant of the servant, because that is the tattva. That is the bhakti yoga tattva. And the guru, he sets the example. He teaches by his own example. By his life, by his activities, he teaches. And we see what is his activities. What is he doing? We see that humility. We see that he's always a servant. And then we get the idea that we should follow in those footsteps. So under the direction of the spiritual master, one must then engage one's three properties, namely his body, his mind, and his words. Our body, our mind, and our words have to be engaged in the service of the Lord through the service of the Vaishnavas. It's well known that Krishna says that you may present yourself as my devotee, but I may not accept you. Krishna is abhigya svarat. He knows everything. He knows your inner heart, your inner mind. He knows whether you have some personal agenda. And svarat, he's completely independent. There's nothing you can do to change his mind or to influence him in any way. So we have to become the servant of the servant by our body, our mind, and our words. And when the Lord sees that, because he says, but if you are the devotee of my devotee, then I will definitely accept you. So he may not accept you if you just try to go direct, but he will definitely 100% accept you when you go through the parampara system. So sometimes we think the parampara system is just to surrender to the guru and not to the God brothers. But if we surrender to the God brothers, we make tremendous advancement, Because it's easy to surrender to Guru. It's not so easy to surrender to everybody else. That's more difficult. So if you can do that, Krishna is so pleased. Then he sees, yes, this person is making advancement in devotional life. So Prabhupada emphasizes that the body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the spiritual master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. So here are the three things that are essential for advancement in spiritual life. You engage your body according to the instructions of the spiritual master. You engage your mind in always thinking of Krishna. The easiest way to think of Krishna is through Krishna Nam. Just chant Hare Krishna in your mind. You know, externally you can chant also, but in your mind, for the rest of the day after the morning program, you should be thinking of the holy name. Because the holy name is non-different in Krishna. The holy name is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. Non-different. The Nam Rupe and the Krishna Bhagavan Rupe is the same. So the mind should always be engaged, always be connected to the holy name. And we should always be engaged in sharing this tattva of bhakti yoga with others. So our words are always engaged in sharing with other people. Because if you think about it, we all were in Maya some time back. And we met a devotee, and a devotee shared with us what it was like to be Krishna conscious. A devotee invited us to come to the temple. A devotee offered us Mahaprasad. So the devotees were so kind to us in the beginning. And we kept coming again and again. And we were thinking, these people in this temple, they are so pure. They're so dedicated. They're so saintly. How many people used to think like that when you first came? And that was the right mentality. But after 10 years, you may not think the same way. This is the problem. You come at a high level of inspiration. You're inspired by the holy name, inspired by the devotees, inspired by the murtis, inspired by Mahaprasad. And so that inspiration brings you to Krishna consciousness, and you begin your bhajana kriya. But after some time, you begin to go back to your normal habit. And what is our normal habit? To see the faults in other people. We no longer see everybody as saints. We think that this devotee, he's kacha. Someone else, you didn't do that service very nice. In the beginning, we think that whatever they do is glorious. But later on, we start judging, analyzing. You know, in the beginning, you just want to serve all the devotees. You're so happy to serve all the Vaishnavas when you first come. But after you get first initiation and second initiation, then you're thinking, they should be serving me. I'm a Brahmana. Isn't it? So you see, then in the beginning we make rapid advancement, but then our old habits kick in and we start making very little advancement. We're not going up anymore, we're just going sideways. So we have to regain, recapture that original mood that we had when we first came. Because that was the mood that propelled us to Krishna Seva. That enlivened us so much that we were able to give up up the family, give up our opportunities to make money, give up all other opportunities for benefits in the material world. We were prepared to forget about all those things and just take to the shelter of Krishna Seva. That was our internal mood in those first days. We have to recapture that mood. So Prabhupada says, if one is thus engaged in the loving service of the Lord with his mind, with his words, and with his activities, then one's life becomes successful. What does it mean, successful? Successful means you go back home, back to Krishna. You enter into the Krishna Leela. Punarjanma ho gaya. No more Punarjanma. Shastra proclaims that Punarjanma is the greatest calamity, the greatest difficulty in material life. It's the greatest curse, Punarjanma. And why is that? Because whatever we learn in this life, we learn to walk and talk, we learn so many subjects, we become expert in this or that endeavor. But when you die, you leave your body, you take birth in the next body, you forget everything that you knew. You forget how to walk. You forget how to talk. You forget how to dress even. You even forget how to eat. Your mama has to put the food in your mouth. You forget everything. So birth after birth, you learn and then you forget. You learn and you forget. Every child, every infant has forgotten everything that he knew in the previous life. So that's why taking birth again is the greatest calamity for us. So now, here we are. We've taken up this process, Bhakti Marga. Now we have to become determined to be successful, to complete the process. And I remember Prabhupada gave a class in 1975 in Los Angeles Temple. And he finished the class by saying, so, if you follow all the instructions I have given you, and he listed them out, chanting Mahamantra, the Japa, the Kirtan, attending the Artis, taking Mahaprasad, reading and studying the books, going out and helping others, distributing books, preaching. So he said, if you follow all my instructions, I guarantee you go back home, back to Godhead in this life. Prabhupada gave a guarantee. So in the Brahmacharya ashram, we were all pretty excited. Wow, Prabhupada gave a guarantee. This is great. This is so easy to go back home, back to Godhead. We didn't realize that after 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it wasn't so easy to maintain. Because to maintain, you have to rise up to Sattva Guna. And if we're in Rajaguna or even influenced by Tamaguna, then it's difficult to maintain. And it becomes a struggle. In the beginning, it's easy to chant our 16 rounds. But after a couple of fall downs, it's not so easy. It becomes more difficult. Because in the beginning, Krishna gives us special kripa. Why? Because we come with the mood that everyone's a pure devotee. I'm a servant of everyone. Let me serve. Let me give up my material life. Let me just take to this process of bhakti yoga. And when Krishna sees this mood that we have when we first come, he gives so much ashirvad. But later on, when we're having difficulties, Krishna says, now you have to do it on your own. And this is something that Prabhupada taught me. He said, I can teach you everything. How to fly your plane back home, back to Godhead, but then you have to fly it yourself. He'll teach you how to do it, but you have to do it yourself. He can't do it for you. Sometimes devotees think, oh, my guru, he will take me back to Godhead. He'll do everything. So I can just eat and sleep. No, it's not how it works. The guru gives you the teachings, the instructions, the inspiration, but you have to do it yourself. You have to do it yourself. You have to open up your heart and make an offering to Krishna from your own heart. My dear Lord Krishna, I want to do this for you. Now I'll share with you the pastime of one of my godbrothers. This was in 1969 in London. I joined in London, by the way. So one of my godbrothers, he had just come from Canada. He had come to London. And the devotees in London were doing big service. They had engaged George Harrison, the Beatles, everywhere. And they had acquired a wonderful place, Sevenbury Place, as a possible temple. Prabhupada had arranged for deities. Everything was happening. So my godbrother Ishan Prabhu, he was thinking, everyone's doing such wonderful service for Krishna. I also want to do wonderful service for Krishna. But I'm not doing wonderful service for Krishna. So he went to see Prabhupada. In those days, you could just go up to Prabhupada's room, knock on the door, and he would see you. I was 69. So Ishan comes in. Prabhupada greets him. How can I help you, Ishan? So Ishan begins and he says, Srila Prabhupada, I see that everybody in this temple, they're doing really big service for Krishna. And I'm not doing so much. I also want to do big service for Krishna. So you give me some very important big service that I can do for Krishna. So Prabhupada looked at him. He shook his head. He said, no. So Ishan was thinking, maybe I didn't explain myself properly. So he goes through it again. I want to do big service. Everyone else is doing big service. You give me some very important service that I can do for Krishna. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, no, Ishan. And Ishan was completely bewildered. So Prabhupada could understand, Ishan doesn't get it. He doesn't understand. So then he said, Ishan, what do you want to do for Krishna? What do you want to do from your own heart to offer to Krishna? Not that I tell you what to do, and then it's not coming from you. It's coming from me. So the spiritual master engages us in the beginning and inspires us to do devotional service, but then it has to come from our own heart. We're not robots that we just do it on automatic pilot. And I've seen it. Devotees working on automatic pilot. Not conscious, but completely unconscious. And what Prabhupada called Krishna unconscious. You just do without thinking, without being aware that I'm dealing with Krishna. So we have to become fully conscious that we're dealing with Krishna. And we have to learn to engage our body in direct devotional service to the Lord. We have to learn to engage the mind of always thinking of Krishna. So that can mean Krishna Nam, always thinking of the holy name. Krishna Gun, I'm always thinking of the qualities of Krishna. Krishna Rup, I think of the different forms of Krishna, the different roops that he takes in his pastimes. Krishna Leela, I think of Krishna Leela. Krishna Shiksha, I think of Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna Samvad, all the news about Krishna that we're hearing from different people and from different shastras. Krishna Parshad, the associates of Krishna. You're thinking of the associates of Krishna. So in this way, or Krishna Prasadam, even if you just think of Krishna Prasadam, that's positive. So anything connected to Krishna keeps the mind in a state of purification until the mind finally becomes purified. Because purifying the mind is our most important business. Because if the mind remains impure, if the mind is chanchal, meditating on Indriya Tripti, then it will always be a struggle to become Krishna conscious, because we'll be fighting against our mind. The mind has one idea, you have another idea. I want to just serve Krishna and think of the holy name, and the mind wants to think of Indriya Tripti. The mind wants to enjoy. So making the mind a Vaishnava is very important. So we have to follow all these instructions given by the Guru. So this is the point. The Guru is giving us instructions. He's instructing us in every aspect of devotional service. But then we have to do it ourselves. He can't do it for us. We have to do it. It has to come from our heart. So here, Vritrasura, he is ready to give up his body. He requests Indra, please release your thunderbolt and kill this horrible body so that I will benefit and go back home, back to Godhead. He wanted to die because he understood one thing, the most important thing, that the only way to go back to Godhead is to die. Every one of you has to die first. Therefore, the Vaishnavas, we're not afraid of death. We don't fear death because we know that when I die, it only opens the door to the spiritual world. So I look forward to death. I don't try to push it back. I'm just like Maharaj Parikshit. He was cursed by Shringi that he would die in 7 days. But he was so powerful. He could have been surrounded by his army that no one could get to him. He had all kinds of Ayurvedic doctors and ojas and everybody to protect him. But he didn't. He said, okay, 7 days. Let me get ready. Let me prepare. 7 days later, he left his body, but he was fully Krishna conscious. So we should be following in the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj. Now the Srimad Bhagavatam is 12 cantos. And in these 12 cantos, there's the examples of so many people that can inspire us. Most of the examples, they inspire us what to do. But then there are some examples what not to do. Ajamil, you don't want to follow his example. That's what not to do. Dena Maharaj, you don't want to follow his example. But Vritrasura, we can follow his example. Because I know in my case, I can relate to Vritrasura. Because I was born in Malecha Desh. I didn't even hear the name Krishna until I was 25 years old. I was performing all kinds of pop, eating unmentionable items, drinking unmentionable drinks, doing all kinds of unmentionable things. So I was living the life of an asura, although I wasn't aware of that because I was in complete maya. But when I came to Krishna consciousness, then I could see what is the difference between my life then and my life now. Now, many of you may have been brought up in dharmic families. So you don't know what is the other side. You haven't experienced it. You hear about it, but it's not a direct experience. But we had a direct experience, what it is like on the other side, and it's not very nice. So we must become servant of the servant of the servant. And we must be ready, prepare ourselves for that time when we will leave the body with no fear. No fear, but jubilant. Yes, my dear Lord, I'm going to give up the body now. I'm coming home, back home, to serve you eternally. Das, 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 anudas. We don't have to worry what happens after death. Non-devotees, they have great fear because they don't know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. It's all there in the Bhagavatam. We have knowledge, and knowledge dispels fear. When there's ignorance, then you have fear. But when there's no ignorance and you have full knowledge, then there's no fear. So, Prabhupada, I'll repeat what he says again. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. So let me read the shloka one more time, because this shloka is the sum and substance of devotional life. So please listen carefully. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, that my words would always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. This is his prayer. This is his mood. This is his desire. This is all that he wants. He's telling Indra, you kill me now with your thunderbolt. And let me focus on the Lord and go back home, back to Godhead. Because he knows that death means the door is open to return back home, back to Krishna Lila. So, that's the sum and substance of devotional life. So I'll stop here and ask if there's any questions. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. So whatever you mentioned, like we have to become servant of the servant, so that we can remember in normal situations. But when the difficult situation arises, so at that time, like what happens with me, either is like I will be either forgetting the knowledge only, this teaching that yes, we have to have tolerance, patience, we have to serve others, or even if I will be able to remember those things, then I don't have that strength to apply it. So in those situations,
you don't have the strength to apply the teachings of the Guru. That's what you're saying?
Yes. So how can we?
Well, I'll tell you, once I came to devotional service, I stopped thinking about anything, and I just followed Prabhupada's instructions. I never thought, why am I doing this? What will be the benefit? I just went out and did it. I never thought about it. It's your mind that's causing the problems. Too much thinking. You know, the flow of Krishna bhakti has to come spontaneously. And the biggest enemy of the flow of spontaneous bhakti is thoughts from the mind. The thoughts block that flow. How to do it? You have to check your mind. You have to control your mind. You can't listen to your mind. You have to come up with a strategy how to make your mind a devotee. And I dealt with this, and I would have different strategies As the years would go by, I'd come up with another strategy and then a better one and a better one. I was always thinking how to make my mind a devotee, how to defeat those thoughts that are blocking the flow of Krishna Bhakti from my heart. So you have to do the same thing. You can use your mind to think of how to overcome the mind. It's a trick. Just like the mother uses a trick with the child. He's sick. Oh, I'll give you some medicine. No, I don't want medicine. So she puts the medicine in a sweet. Oh, here, have this sweet then, no medicine. Okay, takes the sweet. So we have to be more intelligent than the mind. We have to use our intelligence to control the mind. Use the intelligence to defeat the mind's objections. The mind gives so many reasons. Like, for example, the alarm goes off. You look at the clock, it's 4 a.m. And you're thinking, ay. And your mind says, just rest another 2-3 minutes, We shouldn't listen to that mind. The more we listen to the mind, the more control the mind has over us. And each time we shut down the mind, we're getting more strength because our intelligence is higher than the mind. So the intelligence should say, yes, 4 a.m., let me get up immediately. So that's just one example, but there's so many examples. So that's how to do it. Use your intelligence to defeat the arguments of the mind. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, for your wonderful class. Prabhuji, like you mentioned, we have to be always Krishna conscious and we have to cultivate this Dasanudas mood, servant of servant. But when we are giving some responsibility, like managerial responsibility, so in that, when we are rendering the service, we are not so much Krishna conscious, or we are not considering every devotee as servant of servant, because our purpose is to get the service done. So in that case, Prabhu, how we should become like, as you mentioned, cultivate this mood of Dasanudas with devotees and everyone. Hare Krishna.
So what was the question?
My question is, when we are doing some service, at that time we are not exactly Krishna conscious or considering every devotee as servant of
So you're doing some seva and you're not Krishna conscious. So
and also I'm not dealing with devotee as myself to be servant of servant. So how to be in that mood?
okay, so you're doing some seva, you're not Krishna conscious. How to do the seva fully Krishna conscious? This is what you want to know. So what does it mean, I'm doing the seva, I am not Krishna conscious? It means that your mind has taken over your consciousness. Your mind is trying to defeat your Krishna Bhakti seva. Because the mind wants Indriya Tripti. Because the mind wants Indriya Tripti, it's trying to defeat your Krishna seva. But you have to use your intelligence to defeat the mind. It's the same answer. So we're doing some seva. And what is the mind thinking of? Like, I'll give you an example. Here we are in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Many people are here. Some people, they're completely fixed on hearing the katha. And other people, their minds are wandering. And they're not really hearing the katha. So the people whose minds are wandering and not hearing the katha, are they in the Bhagavatam class? Because you can go to that person and say, why you didn't come to the Bhagavatam class? No, I was there. You didn't see me sitting? No, but you're not your body. You brought your body there, but you didn't bring your consciousness there. So they didn't come to the Bhagavatam class because their mind was wandering somewhere else. So we're not the body. We have to understand we're the consciousness. So devotional service is not done with the hands and legs. It's done with the heart and soul. So you may be cleaning the temple room floor, and if you're thinking of Krishna, that's devotional service. But if you're thinking, when will I finish this because I'm tired and I want to go to bed, then it's not devotional service. So the seva has to be devotional. Bhakti means devotional service, not just government seva. The government seva, people, they don't care about their service. They just want the money at the end of whenever they get paid. But we're not like that. For us, we're focused on the seva because it's for Krishna. We're doing it for Krishna. So I'm cleaning the temple room floor. My dear Lord Krishna, I hope this is satisfactory to you. I want you to have a clean, nice temple so when the devotees come, they can have a nice kirtan. So you have to use your intelligence to control the mind. Same. It's always like that. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
His Grace वैयासाखी प्रभु की। आइए हम प्रभु जी को 3 बार धन्यवाद देंगे इस सुंदर क्लास के लिए। हरि बोल बोलकर हरि बोल हरि वैयासाखी प्रभु की। तो महत्वपूर्ण अनाउंसमेंट, एक अनाउंसमेंट संकीर्तन डिपार्टमेंट की ओर से है। संकीर्तन डिपार्टमेंट के ओर से भरतनाट्यम के कोर्सेस लेवल 1 बालाजी हॉल में आज शुरू होने जा रहा है। 10 से 11 बजे 1 घंटे का ये क्लास रहेगा और उसका ड्यूरेशन 3 महीने रहेगा। जिन कोई बच्चियों को ये कोर्स ज्वाइन करना है, आप बालाजी हॉल में 10 से 11 के बीच में वहां जा सकते हो। आज हम मनाने जा रहे हैं शरद पूर्णिमा दर्शन। तो ये 5 बजे के बाद ये शरद पूर्णिमा महोत्सव जो है वो शुरू होगा और 5 बजे के बाद आप दर्शन कर सकते हैं और 7:30 बजे के बाद आपके सभी भक्तों के लिए स्पेशल मिल्क प्रसादम डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया जाएगा। ऑस्पिशियस कार्तिक महीना आज से कल से शुरू होने जा रहा है। भक्तों को दीपदान करने के लिए मॉर्निंग 9 से 9:30 बजे आप आ सकते हैं और इवनिंग को 7:30 से 8 बजे आ सकते हैं। इस महीने में उड़द दाल, चातुर्मास का चौथा मंत्र, उड़द दाल वर्ज्य है। इस महीने से मतलब कल से उड़द दाल वर्ज्य है। हरे कृष्णा।
Yes.